The Senate will come to order. The senators will take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will retire to the gallery. Good morning, senators. Good morning. Good morning, guests. Good morning. The senators and those in attendance, if you are able, please rise. We will be led in prayer this morning by the Reverend Travis L. Copeland of Canaan Baptist Church in Hampton. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by our Senate page, Sammy Higginbotham IV of Orange.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Jehovah God, we come today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussions. Allow us to grow closer and not divided as leaders of our state, and nurture the bonds of our state. Fill us with your grace. Almighty God, the creator of all good and perfect gifts, as leaders in our respected positions, help us to make decisions that might affect us in all that we do here today. All that we may accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you and the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name that is above every name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Friday, February 9th, 2024.
The senator from Isle of Wight, Senator Jordan, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All those in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Chair calls on the senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Sorrell.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
I move to waive reading of the House communication.
The question is, shall the reading of the House communication be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
I do not have any, Madam President.
We have arrived at the time in our processes, in the morning hour we call it, when we will hear who all of you are, our beautiful guests. And so the procedure is that your senator will rise and tell us who you are, and please rise when you hear your name or your organization called, and then hold your applause until after I have spoken, and then we'll truly give you a rounding welcome. So, with that, I do call on the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for 2 introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would appreciate if you would give the warm welcome of the Senate to the individual who gave our invocation today. Reverend Travis L. Copeland is a native of Suffolk and is a son of the Missouri Baptist Church, where he was licensed and ordained. Reverend Copeland is the former pastor of the historic Calvary Baptist Church in Kilmarnock, Virginia, where he served for 8 years as pastor. While Reverend Copeland is highly respected for the many gifts that he brings to the body, his greatest impact comes from the pulpit. His sermons have challenged, encouraged, convicted, strengthened, and equipped many believers. Reverend Copeland is the pastor of Canaan Baptist Church in Hampton. If you would please extend to him the warm welcome of the Senate.
Good afternoon to you again, Pastor, for coming. The senator said sermons that challenge, sermons that convict, sermons that encourage, and indeed we need all 3 of those because it depends on where we are in life. Thank you so very much for your sermons. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair calls on the senator from...
I have a second introduction.
Oh, I'm sorry. Senator, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction of the Hampton Roads Committee of 200-plus men who are visiting for their annual caravan to the Capitol. The Hampton Roads Committee of 200-plus men made its debut on September 21st, 1997. The organization focuses education, economic development, and community betterment. The 200-plus Men Incorporated has been engaging in activities designed to inform, educate, honor, and advocate for issues that help strengthen the community. The organization works singularly and in tandem with individuals, groups, and governmental units to share goal efforts. Some of the programs the organization promotes are Brother to Brother Camp for the mentees, which includes outdoor activities and straight talk sessions. Caravan to Richmond is a civic education initiative that exposes African American teens to the legislative process, state lawmakers, and government officials. The 200-plus Scholars Breakfast, this signature event, has honored more than 7,000 African-American high school males. The Scholars Academy is a mentoring program developed to help African-American young men graduate from high school with the necessary skills to be productive citizens, prepared for higher education, professional training, or the work world. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating the members of the 200-plus men for celebrating 25 years of service in the Hampton Roads community.
Good afternoon to you, and we thank our elders for bringing this, and not that you're that elderly, but you know what I mean. You're the next generation for starting this organization, and then young men for you being a part of that organization. And I challenge you and I encourage you to continue with the organization. You're going to need people in your life who will encourage you and at the same time let you know when you're on the wrong path. We need all of that. So don't drop out. Stay strong. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. And now, the senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to bring to the attention of the members the presence in the gallery today of the family of my seatmate. And I'm particularly glad that his wife has come to help me manage him, because that's been a little bit of a challenge this year with the new seatmate. Madam President, in the gallery we have his wife, Ashley, Dylan, who's 12, Maria, who's 10, Laura Louise, who's 5, and Daniel, who's 1. And I don't suspect she's going to help me manage him because she's already got her hands full. Madam President, I'd ask you to give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Welcome, family. And I know that you're proud of your dad, and to see him in this space in which he is a senator, I'm sure, really makes you very proud. And maybe one day you'll be the next suit of line who will be here. It's a sacrifice, as you already know, because you don't see him much during this time. So thank you for giving him to us. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes the senator from Isle of Wight, Senator Jordan.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we have in the gallery a contingent of residents from Greensville County here to advocate on behalf of their community. I'd ask that they would stand. Today with us, we have Pastor Valley Woodley of Lenora Gerald Worship Center, Kelly Woodley, Dr. Charlotte Woolridge, the Greensville County Administrator, Lynn Pope, the Greensville County Planning Director, Corey Moorfield, the Greensville County Rescue Squad President, and Mr. Cornell and Miss Connie Cox. Today they're here to advocate across the Capitol with so many different people the hardship that they've experienced in their community in Greensville, specifically the Liberty Road area, and the hardship that their church, the residents of their area has faced in regard to transportation needs. I hope it would be the will of the Senate to give them a warm welcome.
We thank you for coming indeed, and I note that it is the entire leadership. We have the pastor, the county admin, planning, rescue, and more, because it takes all of you to bring together that community. And in any community, we cannot do it by ourselves. It is working together that we can accomplish much. Thank you so very much for being here. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Is there any other business to come for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Monday, February 12, 2024. Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 12, hunting dogs release on state or local roadway penalties. We have a floor amendment.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I first would like to reconsider the vote by which the bill was ordered to be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the vote by which the bill was ordered to be engrossed in advance to its third reading be reconsidered? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The vote is reconsidered. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the floor amendment be agreed to, and speaking to that.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. What the original bill did here was prevent the dropping off of hunting dogs in front of someone's property where you have no ability to or no permission to hunt, and the dogs immediately go towards the property. And we've had people with 22 days in a row where dogs have been released onto their property, waking them up, disturbing their animals, creating some chaos on their property. But what the bill does, what the amendment does, is provide two exceptions to that. One being you can use a public roadway and 15 feet on either side of it to drop dogs off and transport them to an adjacent piece of property where you do have permission to hunt. And in listening to the number of people who I heard from on this issue, it also, someone had a very good suggestion that I've incorporated as an exception, which is if that roadway, on either side of that roadway are public lands where hunting is allowed. So we've made those two exceptions. That's what the floor amendment does, and I move that the floor amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed to advance to its third reading. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move now that the rules be suspended and dispense with the third constitutional reading of Senate Bill 712.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended and the third constitutional reading is dispensed with. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the bill pass, and just briefly speaking to that.
The senator may say on.
Thank you, Madam President. Confrontations are just getting worse between property owners and those who are wanting to hunt with hounds. And the release onto people's property when there's no other places for the dogs to go has been very, very disruptive. We're having confrontations between landowners and the hound hunters in the community that has led to one stabbing on the in the northern neck several years ago. I get emails from people with pictures of dogs being attacked with bows and arrows. It's just setting people off against each other, and I'm hoping this very small measure to protect the rights of property owners, but to continue the right to hunt with hounds, to continue the right to retrieve, and under this bill you can pick up your dogs on a public roadway to retrieve them. And that's what the bill does. It's a small measure to bring a little more peace and order to some of our rural communities. And I reiterate my motion that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 20.
Chair votes no. The bill fails.
Senate Bill 78, Campaign Advertisements, Independent Expenditures, Electioneering Communication.
Chair calls on Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 78 is a transparency bill. What it does is it enters into code a definition of electioneering communications, and it defines that as any advertisement or promotion in favor or in defeat of a specific candidate. So it covers all the mediums, television, print, and the social media platforms. If such an advertisement is published within 30 days of a primary or 60 days of a general election, the organization would then have to report to the Board of Elections. What this bill requires, however, is on the advertisement that the organization list its top donor, or if nobody stands out, has the top donor and other donors have given equal amounts, the organization has to list the top 3 donors. This only applies to third-party organizations where they did not coordinate at all with the candidate's campaign. I think this is a good bill, and I think if we want more transparency in our electoral process, if we want to understand who's really behind advertisements, who's trying to influence the election process, you should vote for this bill. So, having nothing further to say, Madam President, I once again renew my motion that the bill pass.
Chair recognizes Senator Stanley, the senator from Franklin.
Thank you, Madam President. To speak against the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Although I have, again, great affection for the patron, the senator from Arlington said that this is supposed to be a transparency bill. That we're supposed to learn more from who's involved in meddling in our elections. And while this legislation is meant to bring more accountability and disclosure in these elections, and that is a meritorious goal, it only goes halfway. The legislation seeks to expose the donors of an organization that advocates for or against a candidate via an independent expenditure, as the patron has just described. That organization is known as a 501c3, 4, or 6, whose donors would be anonymous but for this law. But the law doesn't go far enough. There are many examples of those same C4 or 6 organizations that utilize in-kind donations to coordinate with a candidate. Such activity that we see, we call that dark money because it's never disclosed who ponied up the money for that expenditure. Such activity that is not disclosed by the organization is in violation of Virginia election law, but they do so claiming that the tax code protects their donors. Ladies and gentlemen, why can't we as a body just agree once and for all that this is not only wrong, but it's deceitful? My simple amendment that we tried on Friday would have lit a lamp to shine a light on all the dark money activities of these organizations. If you choose to advocate for or against a candidate, no matter what the party in Virginia, then the donors of those activities should be exposed to the light. Instead, this bill right here without that floor amendment creates more insidious climate of secrecy in Virginia, and instead we are placing a basket over the top of the light of transparency that the patron hopes to bring to elections in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I went back and I looked at the committee testimony, and all the advocates talked of weak election laws, lack of transparency over and over again, and I agree. I think we all should be able to agree. But I cannot vote for a bill that makes the situation worse. And therefore, unless we're going to do this, let's go all the way with it and do it once and for all to eliminate dark money from Virginia politics. This bill in of itself creates a situation where a 501c3, 4, or 6 who comply with Virginia law via the independent expenditure is penalized with this bill, but where those who do not comply with Virginia law through an in-kind donation of a 501c3, 4, or 6 are incentivized to continue to do so. This is what makes this bill wrong. This is why incrementalism does not work. If we're going to get rid of this dark money in politics, which is a noble goal, then let's do it whole hog. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair again recognizes Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. I will just respond that many laws we pass are incremental. We want to see how they're going to work. We want to fully understand what the implication is. And then we come back the next year and often improve upon it. I concede that the senator from Franklin is correct. This does not deal with in-kind donations, but it is a step forward. I think if you care about transparency, this is a positive vote. I am happy to work with the senator from Franklin to come up with another bill in the next session that goes further. I renew my request that this bill pass. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 21.
Ayes 19, noes 21. The bill fails.
Senate Bill 436, Workforce Development and Advancement, Department of, changes title of Director to Commissioner.
Chair recognizes Senator Suderline, the senator from Roanoke.
Madam President, it's kind of ominous in here today, but I move passage of Senate Bill 436. and speaking briefly to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 436 continues a lot of the work that was started by our friend, the former Senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff, making updates to our workforce programs. Senate Bill 436 updates and cleans up some of the things that were started last year. The most substantive portion deals with the Apprentice Council. I think we've been able to get good consensus on that. There were some concerns about some of the data. I believe that has all been addressed by the friendly substitute from the senior senator from Prince William on Friday. And then there's a few cosmetic changes in the bill as well, with some title changes. But the substantive portion deals with the Apprentice Council, and I hope it'll be the pleasure of the body to advance this bill to the other chamber, and so we can get it to the governor's desk. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 15, Reproductive Health Care Services, Prohibitions on Extradition for Certain Crimes.
Chair recognizes the senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. What this bill does is it protects an individual who comes to Virginia from a state that has a ban on abortion, and she receives an abortion in Virginia. It would protect her from extradition, and it also protects the doctors and healthcare providers that have performed that abortion from extradition. That's the beginning and end of this bill. It is a bill that will protect the laws of Virginia. It honors the laws of Virginia, and it's the right thing to do. I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I know some people might think, why would we need this kind of protection in Virginia law for women from being extradited from Virginia back to other states for crimes relating to abortions? Just want to make clear, last year, the Attorney General of Alabama twice specifically said that he was open and completely open to bringing women from other states back to Alabama to be prosecuted, specifically over mifepristone, I believe it is. This isn't a theoretical possibility. It's a real threat. And the United States Constitution allows us to create this kind of exception to extradition. And this bill creates a good safe harbor for people engaging in legal conduct in our state. They shouldn't have to worry about, if they engage in legal conduct in our state, getting sucked out to other states because an attorney general in some other state has a problem with what we do here in Virginia. I hope we would pass this bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 16, Search Warrants, Menstrual Health Data Prohibited Definition.
Chair recognizes again Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, what this bill does is it protects menstrual health data.
Your motion, Senator.
My apologies. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. What this bill does is it protects menstrual health data, whether it's stored on an app or you keep it in your little notebook, however it's stored, from law enforcement. Menstrual health data is a personal type of data. It is, to my mind, it should be covered completely under our privacy laws. It is not covered under HIPAA. There is no reason for law enforcement to have access to this data. and I think the bill needs to pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of the passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 23, Juveniles Adjudication of Delinquency.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 23 pass, and speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 23 specifies that a delinquent child is a child 11 years of age or older who has submitted a delinquent act. Currently, there is no minimum age for a child to be adjudicated delinquent in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The bill provides that if a juvenile younger than 11 years of age is found to have committed a delinquent act, the juvenile shall not be proceeded upon as a delinquent. However, the court may make any orders of disposition authorized for a child in need of service or a child in need of supervision. And with that, Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 141, Organizations, Certain State Department of Health Regulation on Sale of Food.
Chair recognizes Senator Mulcahy, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Madam President, I move that the bill be recommitted to the Committee on Education and Health as it needs a little more work.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 141 be recommitted to the Committee on Education and Health? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is recommitted to the Committee on Education and Health.
Senate Bill 196, Voter Registration, List Maintenance Data Standards, Challenges to a Voter's Registration.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Enrico, Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, members of the body, Senate Bill 196 does two things. It's related to voter registration and how people are taken off the rolls. The first thing it does is determine kind of quality control, what types of information the department can use when they're trying to compare lists, and then asks the Department of Elections to annually audit the sources they're using for purging people from the rolls. And then the second thing it does is it allows people whose registration has been objected to go to the court, their local court, to challenge that if they think they've been wrongly taken off the rolls. And so with that, I renew my motion to move passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 4.
Ayes 32, noes 4. The bill passes.
Madam Chair, or Madam President.
For what purpose does the senator from Roanoke rise?
Having voted on the prevailing side by which we just passed Senate Bill 196, I think there were a few electronic issues getting votes recorded, so I'd ask that we reconsider that.
The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 196 was passed be reconsidered? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill is reconsidered. Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Having previously discussed the bill, I move passage.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 214, Corporation Limited Liability Company, etc., Service of Garnishment Summons.
Chair recognizes Senator Sturtevant, the senator from Colonial Heights.
Madam President, move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The clerk has the senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 214 makes some technical changes to the Garnishment Summons Service Code section to clarify the manner of serving a garnishment summons. It says that the garnishment summons is served on a garnishment designee. If the company doesn't have a garnishment designee, it's served on the registered agent or on a managing employee. And with that explanation, I request that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 237, contraception establishes right to obtain.
Chair recognizes the senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that SB 237 pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. SB 237 is codifying the right to contraception. After the fall of Roe v. Wade, when the U.S. Supreme Court took away precedent and made abortion access left it up to our states to decide, we face a similar issue now with the concerns around the right to contraception. Immediately after the fall of Roe v. Wade, Justice Clarence Thomas stated publicly and has restated many times that he would consider overturning the constitutional right to contraception in reevaluating the Griswold case. We know that contraception access is absolutely imperative for so many individuals, not just in Virginia, but across the country. Contraception is essential not only for family planning, but also for managing so many health conditions. Many, many individuals rely on contraceptive care to address the severe issues of endometriosis and other debilitating physical concerns. So with that, I move again that we pass SB 237. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator from Roanoke, Senator Suderline.
Madam President, speak briefly to the bill, if I may.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate, I think, what's behind Senate Bill 237 and was happy to support the senator from Chesterfield's legislation last year and this year again, increasing access to contraception. We just passed one of her bills last week over to the other chamber, and I'm optimistic it will make it through there, and I hope it's signed into law. This creating a affirmative legal right, though, gives me some concern about where we'd go down that path. I think we always need to be careful when we assert something as an affirmative right, and I think that we need to continue making sure that we expand contraceptive coverage and access. I think abortion's a tragedy, and I think one of the greatest things we can do to reduce the likelihood of those occurring is make sure that we have contraceptives available to people across this Commonwealth. So I don't think we should pass this bill today, but I appreciate the larger spirit behind the senator's efforts, and I hope we won't. I hope this one, though, will not become law. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 259, civil actions filed on behalf of multiple persons, awarded damages in action for retaliation.
Chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Somerville.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. So, ladies and gentlemen, this bill is a bill to get our state out of the pantheon of being the only other state with Mississippi not to allow this type of relief. It basically would authorize Virginia courts to allow for class action lawsuits in Virginia. The federal system has had these for decades. Most of the states have had them for decades, but our Supreme Court has not amended our rules to allow them. We have allowed them by statute in limited circumstances, for example, for homeowners associations, asbestos cases, worker misclassification, wage theft, retaliatory action, public accommodations, predatory lending, but not for everything else. And we need to catch up with the rest of the world on this. Without this remedy, what ends up happening is in some big cases that get filed around the country, if a corporation is headquartered in Virginia, they end up having to file hundreds of individual cases in our state courts, which really clogs the courts up. In Fairfax, I know we had the Volkswagen litigation. There were 300 cases that were filed there. The Chinese drywall situation bogged down Newport News for a long time because all the cases there. And this bill basically just levels the playing field and brings us up to speed with the rest of the country. You've seen it twice, or the chamber has seen it twice before, passed it twice before. This version is a little bit different in terms of how it's structured, but basically the same in terms of its practical effect. And has a lot of support from other organizations. I would hope we could pass the bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Madam President, I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, it pains me to rise in opposition to a bill from my friend from Eastern Fairfax on a topic that we very frequently agree on. But I hear my friend point out that we are one of two states in the country that don't have class action lawsuits. We're also the only state in the country that prohibits the use of depositions in most cases, which I think my colleague from Eastern Fairfax would probably agree is a good thing. And I would respectfully submit that if we've been doing it right all this time, we ought to keep doing it right. And we have a outstanding reputation as a great place to do business. This will do nothing but undermine that. I would hope that we will stay the course. Our civil justice system is working pretty well without class action lawsuits, and I think it will continue to function well for the foreseeable future.
Chair again recognizes Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. If nobody else desires to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with the senator that we mostly don't have depositions or summary judgment on depositions with affidavits and depositions, and that's typically, and I agree that's a good thing. I would note, though, that every other state that's up there in the top 10 with us, in the best state to do business list, they all have class actions, because Mississippi is not anywhere close to being in the top 10. The other thing I would just say that because we don't have this remedy, there's, I think, some cases that don't get brought. So, for example, if a company is causing people problems at 50 cents or $1, $2, $5, $10, $50 per violation, a lot of times those lawsuits don't get brought. But when Virginians can aggregate their claims in one group, then the litigation becomes effective, and a company that's sort of breaking their contract or breaking the law in small dollar amounts, they can finally be held accountable with a class action remedy, whereas they can't with an individual action. And I think that's really important in terms of leveling the playing field. Corporations shouldn't be able to break the law or their contract with regard to hundreds of thousands of people in that way. And that's why the other states have adopted this kind of remedy, and I'd hope we could do it.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 270, Presidential Primaries Ranked Choice Voting.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Subramaniam.
Madam President, I move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This simply sets up a system where we can allow political parties to hold ranked choice voting for presidential primaries only. The idea is we can start doing this in 2028. There is a reenactment clause that was put on it, but we'll still have 3 years to be able to do this. So I move passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 315, voter registration, registration of Department of Motor Vehicles customers, automatic update.
Chair recognizes Senator Salim, senator from Central Fairfax.
Madam President, I ask that the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 315 provides that the information gathered by the Department of Motor Vehicle for a person who indicates that they already registered to vote is to be automatically transmitted to the Department of Elections for the purposes of updating an existing voter registration record. Under the current law, a person must be presented with the option to decline to have his or her information transmitted to the Department of Elections before such information may be transmitted. The bill would increase the accuracy of voter registration roll by automatically updating a voter registration record if the voter provides a different address to Virginia DMV during a licensing transaction, and I ask that this body pass this bill.
Chair recognizes Senator Aird, the senator from Petersburg. The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 321, administrative and civil proceedings, protected information, news persons engaged in journalism.
Chair recognizes Senator Roan, senator from Western Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move passage of the bill and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So this bill just adds civil court and administrative court protections to the law that we passed 31-9 through this body in 2020 to make sure that reporters are not compelled to have to disclose the name of their sources. I've also spoken with some of the folks who were on the nay column in courts who have assured me they will be on the yay column today. So I'd like to thank the senators from Hanover and Rockingham for seeing the wisdom of the big city attorney from Lynchburg who got the initial vote correct. So let's put 40 green lights up on the board today. And with that, Madam President, I move passage of the bill.
The chair recognizes Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover. Senator.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
Senator McDougall has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I was prepared to vote for this bill before I heard a big city attorney was supportive of it, and it was his idea, and it might be changing my mind. But Madam President, all joking aside, appreciate the senator for reaching out and talking to us, because this was an issue that the way the words originally were viewed was one that was a concern, but I think as more in-depth conversation and reflectiveness, we've come to a good conclusion to move this forward.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 327, firearms age requirement to purchase penalty.
Chair recognizes Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 327 is a critical measure aimed to enhancing public safety by raising the age requirement for purchasing a firearms to 21 years of old. This measure is vital in addressing the concerning trends of gun violence and suicides among young adults. Senate Bill 327 is grounded in evidence. Limiting access to firearms for individuals under 21 has shown to reduce rates of homicides and suicides among teens. By raising the age limit, we are taking a proactive steps towards safeguarding our communities. Young adults aged 18 to 20 are overrepresented in incidents of gun violence, including school shootings and mass shootings. Despite They account for disproportionately 17% of known gun homicide offenders. We cannot ignore these troubling trends, and Senate Bill 327 offers a tangible solution to addressing those concerns. I want to emphasize that Senate Bill 327 includes reasonable exemptions for law enforcement officers, correctional officers, jailed officers, and the members of the armed forces. This ensures that those who require firearms for legitimate purposes are not unduly restricted by the age requirement. I ask that this body pass Senate Bill 327 and make it a priority to protect our citizens.
Chair recognizes Senator McGuire. The senator from Goochland. Your microphone, Senator.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
So I would say that, you can fight for and die for your country age 18, and I believe the Second Amendment is a national security issue. A Japanese admiral in World War II allegedly said that he would be afraid to invade the United States. There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass. I've never seen so many bills in a session to take away or infringe on our Second Amendment rights. But it is our God-given right to protect ourselves, our family, and our children. And of course, in our Second Amendment, it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I'd ask the body vote no on this bill and all of these anti-gun bills. But remember, criminals don't care about any law we pass, and we seem to always be going after law-abiding citizens.
Chair recognizes Senator Obenshain, the senator from Rockingham.
Madam President, rise to ask if the senator from Central Fairfax would yield for a quick question.
Will Senator Salim yield for a question?
Madam President, I yield.
The senator from Central Fairfax yields. Senator from Rockingham has the floor.
Madam President, I would ask the senator, in light of the fact that one of the things that this bill will do is raise the minimum age for purchase from to 21. I would ask if the senator is aware that there is a current pending lawsuit in the Eastern District of Virginia that has been appealed to the United States Circuit Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, addressing this very same issue.
Senator Salim has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to tell the senator, yes, I am aware of that. However, as he indicated, this is pending and still going through the appeals process. So we still want to continue to do the good work of making sure that we protect our citizens. We ensure that the right folks at the right age can acquire firearms, regardless of the pending court cases.
Madam President, thank the senator. Speaking to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, members of the Senate, this bill is, right now, the state of the law in the Commonwealth of Virginia is that this is patently, facially unconstitutional. It has been the subject of a ruling by a United States District Court judge in Eastern District of Virginia declaring this exact policy to be unconstitutional. We are passing legislation that we know doesn't pass constitutional muster. If next year, much to the surprise of anybody in here, a ruling is final that's gone to the Court of Appeals or the United States Supreme Court that says that we can do this, that would be the appropriate time to do it. But I would respectfully submit that passing a law patently unconstitutional is inadvisable.
Chair recognizes Senator Stanley, the senator from Franklin County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I think it even goes further than the United States District Court ruling in the Eastern District of Virginia. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals right here in Richmond, a three-judge panel ruled just a little while ago with Judge Julius Richardson writing the opinion that a 21-year-old minimum age requirement is unconstitutional. And I'm looking at his opinion here, which means now we've had 2 layers of judicial review to demonstrate that SB 327 is unconstitutional. And they wrote, the majority court wrote, right down here, and you can't say there's some conservative court either. The militia laws in force at the time of ratification of the Constitution uniformly required those 18 and older to join the militia and bring their own arms. While some historical restrictions existed, none support finding that the 18-year-old's lack of rights exist under the Second Amendment. While Richardson noted that there were weighty interests in reducing crime and violence, he concluded that the court will not relegate either the Second Amendment or the 18 to 20-year-olds to a second-class status. Another gun bill coming down the pike. Now we have to say you can go to war, but you can't possess a firearm, even though you can join the Marines. You can't join it when you have your uniform off, when you're not on base or on duty. Another firearm bill, because it's good for us. So they say. But quite frankly, they look at court cases that say this is unconstitutional, and they say, meh, doesn't matter. Another gun bill. Vote no. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, speaking to the bill.
Senator may continue.
I do hope it is the will of the body to pass this measure, understanding that the courts have made decisions in certain cases. The world keeps evolving, and it's never too late to relitigate a case. But there's a lot of evidence now, perhaps recent evidence, depending on when those court rulings are, that individuals under the age of 21 have used semi-automatic weapons for mass shootings. In 2012, we had the Sandy Hook incident in elementary school, 26 dead, 2 injured. 2018, we had the Parkland, Florida incident, 17 dead, 17 injured. 2022, we had, this is the year I'm giving you, we had a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, 10 dead, 3 injured. And then, of course, same year in 2022, we had Uvalde, Texas, 21 dead and 18 injured. And the perpetrators in these cases were all under the age of 21. I think there's a pattern here. And we as leaders have an obligation when evidence comes forth to take steps to protect Virginians. There is nothing wrong with this bill. It is a statement that we understand individuals are slightly more emotional, less measured, and more inclined to act by the moment when they're younger. And that, yes, that age would be younger than 21. I do hope it is the will of the body to pass this measure. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Sorovell, a senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
You know, we already have laws in our books that say if you're under 21, there's certain things you don't have access to, right? You haven't been able to buy alcohol since, I think, the mid-1980s. You haven't been able to buy tobacco since about 2 years ago, I think. You haven't been able to buy marijuana since 2021, under the age of 21. Although these don't typically, the right to buy alcohol, marijuana, alcohol, tobacco, or marijuana, I guess unless you're a Rasta, doesn't implicate any constitutional rights. We still do place restrictions on people's ability to engage in certain types of behavior based on their age. That's not uncommon at all. If you read the Payne opinion, which I think the senator from Franklin County referenced, at least the appeal of it, maybe not the opinion, the underlying district court opinion, one of the things the judge cited was that no evidence was presented about what the laws were about the purchase of guns, I guess, in 1783, I think is what the opinion talks about. I think that logic or that discussion points out the absurdity of the difficulty of applying the standard in the Bruin case, where Justice Thomas wrote, we have to figure out what people thought the rules were back in 1783. And, of course, as I cited to you all earlier, the only people that could vote in 1783 were pretty much white men who had 25 acres of land, who were, by the way, 21 years old. It's an impossible inquiry to conduct. But just because they were unable to present that evidence in one case doesn't mean that somebody isn't going to be able to present the evidence in another case or a future case. historians are finally starting to delve into this fascinating topic of what people thought about guns in 1783, and I guess we're going to be reading a lot of scholarship about it for the next couple of years. But I would say this area of law is very unsettled, and the opinion, I believe, only applies to federal purchases. It doesn't apply, I believe, to purchases from non-federal gun dealers. I'm pretty sure that opinion, I'd go back and read it. I see people making some eyes at me, but I'm pretty sure that that was how I remember reading the newspaper articles. So, Madam President, I think this law, were the governor to sign it, would be a safe measure to take in the meantime until the law is settled. I think we ought to pass it for all the reasons you've already heard. And by the way, if anybody under the age of 21 is worried about protecting themselves in the meantime, they have other means available to them. So I think we should pass it.
Chair recognizes Senator Obenchain, the senator from Rockingham.
Madam President, rise to speak briefly. The bill again.
The senator has the floor.
First of all, the only place you can purchase a gun, virtually the only place, is from a federally licensed firearm dealer. So the suggestion that there are lots of places you can go buy guns other than federally licensed firearms dealers is just not so. Second of all, alcohol, tobacco, marijuana. Last I checked, there is no constitutional right to any of those things as there is with respect to firearms. Third, we hear constantly discussions about incidents that have occurred that involve horrific acts of violence by people who are determined to bring about mass deaths. And every single one of these, you look at them, the facts are unique. Parkland, there were so many opportunities for school and law enforcement officials to interdict, to get, to prevent that from happening. It was outrageous, absolutely outrageous that ever happened. It had more to do with the fact that law enforcement and school personnel were not watching for the violent tendencies of this child. You look at Minnesota. Just last week, the mother of young Mr. Chumley was convicted of manslaughter, as she should have been, for her acts in making that firearm available to somebody she absolutely knew had no business having a firearm. They bought it and gave it to him. This has nothing to do with the rights of somebody in Rockingham County or Northampton County who is 19 years old or 20 years old, going to the gun shop and buying a 20-gauge shotgun to go bird hunting, which is what this does. This is A, unconstitutional, B, it's unnecessary. If we really want to get at violent crimes and gun crimes in Virginia, we have lots of opportunities to do that. We had bills that were introduced that were going to penalize those for committing crimes of violence with a gun. But that failed. This is a message bill, and I would respectfully submit that it is not a serious effort to get at the underlying problem. If we were seriously interested in getting at the underlying problem, we wouldn't be passing bills that we know are going to be struck down by the courts here in Virginia, at the Fourth Circuit, and the United States Supreme Court as unconstitutional.
Chair recognizes again Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. If nobody else is going to speak on the bill,
Senator has the floor.
Madam President.
For what purpose does the senator from Prince William rise?
Before he closes, just to respect, I did hit my button late, and so I wanted to make sure
the senator has the floor.
The second speaking wasn't violated. So, thank you, Madam President. Would the senator yield for a question?
Will Senator Salim rise and yield for a question?
Yes, Madam, I would.
Senator Salim yields. Senator McPike has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd ask the senator, so as I understand it, and looking at the legislation, if I'm, say, 18, 19, or 20, and I have a family married, have kids, I cannot own a firearm in my household.
Senator Salim has the floor.
Under this parameter, is that correct?
Madam President, and Senator, that is correct. You could not purchase one.
Okay.
Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I've been pretty clear about where I feel about firearms and safety measures, but I've also made the commitment to my constituents in terms of the right to bear arms and the most fundamental, and that's in your own household. And I understand the gentleman wants to place some age restrictions on it, and there is some discernment between safety, but I've always made that commitment that I would not be taking firearms away from you to defend your family and the ability to procure those when you have a family. And so I'm going to vote against this measure. I respect where the senator is going with this, but I think there's some distinguishing factors between assault weapons and other things going on. But what I've committed in going door to door to my constituents is that there are certain weapons that I think are military grade. But I've always said you'd always have that ability to defend your family. And I think this goes a little bit too far, Madam President.
Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. If I could get some last word, I do want to point out, I keep hearing this is a great debate. It's another gun violence prevention law. It's another bill that's coming through. I just want to say, Florida has been nicknamed for the longest time Gunshine State because of its plethora of firearms and loose gun restrictions. Then a troubling teenager stormed into the South Florida high school and shot 17 people. 17 people, and we're about to be on that anniversary in a couple days. And you know what they did? They dramatically turned around, one of the most gun-friendly state, just turn it around, and Governor Rick Scott signed into law an array of gun limits that included raising the minimum age to purchase firearms to 21, added a waiting period for 3 days. So you mean to tell me that a lot of our colleagues are going to say Florida can do it better than we can when they're a conservative state? To the point that back in 2018, former President Trump endorsed the idea of raising the minimum age to 21. So I ask this body to support this, not on the principle that you don't want your guns to be taken away, on the fact that we need to protect our own citizens. We need to ensure that another major shooting does not take place. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair again recognizes Senator McPike, the senior senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll move that this bill go by for the day for additional clarity.
Without objection, Senate Bill 327 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 356, Court-Appointed Counsel, raises limitation of fees that counsel can receive for representation.
Chair recognizes Senator Perry, the junior senator from Loudoun.
Yes, Madam President. I move that the bill pass and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
This is a bill that raises fees for folks who the public defender has a conflict in a case, and so the court seeks to appoint outside counsel to represent indigent defendants. Virginia has for many years fallen further and further and further behind not only our neighbors, but many other states in the country in what it is that we can pay those attorneys who are seeking to help out indigent defendants. At least in Loudoun County, where I practice, this has resulted in essentially decimation of court-appointed counsel cases of attorneys who are willing to serve in that capacity. And so this bill seeks to raise the cap on what an attorney can make to represent those individuals. And the hope of the bill is that it will encourage more folks to get on the court-appointed counsel list, as well as the folks who have hung in there and take these cases and represent individuals even to the detriment of their own practice, that they will receive some modicum of compensation, and I hope it's the will of the body to pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 359, Consumer Data Protection Act, Social Media Platforms, Addictive Feed.
Chair recognizes Senator Van Valkenburg, the junior senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, members of the body, Senate Bill 359 is about screenagers, as my daughter calls them. All right. Senate Bill 359 is about when you're on a social media site, you've seen the videos from your friends, and then the videos keep going in eternity. And they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going. This is not about being on social media, this bill. This bill is not about who you follow on social media. This bill is about the feed that happens that these companies force onto children that go off in all kinds of directions. And in committee, I talked about how there was an article that showed that social media feeds for young people are different than adults. And so you as a parent don't fully know what your kids are getting. The article talked a lot about how they were getting pushed influencers who were talking about vaping, among other things. And so this bill says that they can't have that addictive algorithm for kids unless a parent opts their kid into it. That's the bill. I would renew my motion to move passage.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 383, Firearm Explosive Material Carrying within Capitol Square or building owned or leased by the Commonwealth.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass, and I'd like to speak to that.
A senator may continue.
This is a simple bill, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. It makes it a Class 1 misdemeanor to possess a firearm on a college campus. We passed it last year, went over to the other side, and didn't get any further. In the fall of 2022, returning from a field trip, a student at UVA opened fire on his classmates that were on the bus. 3 of those classmates, football players, died. 2 others were injured. The student that allegedly fired the shots had been rumored to be in possession of firearms before, and the authorities knew that, but I guess they took the steps they could take, but they couldn't take but so many steps because possession of a firearm was only against the rules. It wasn't against the law. If it was against the law, if this legislation had been in effect in 2022, perhaps a search warrant could have been issued, and that young man who was late after the fact, when they did a search of his residence, firearms were found, and a large bunch of ammunition was found as well. Perhaps if a search warrant had been issued beforehand, tragedy could have been averted. Hindsight is always 20/20. This legislation is an important piece of legislation. It's got a significant amount of support out in the world. I understand that we're in this partisan bubble right here. So I'd ask you to consider it. I'd ask you to pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 401, Military Leaves of Absence for Employees of the Commonwealth, etc., includes professional firefighters.
Chair calls on Senator Durant, the senator from Stafford.
I rise to, so sorry,
move passage
of the bill. Thank you.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, this bill creates a special framework for firefighters who work a 24-hour shift, and that's will allow them to have coverage for their 2-week annual training that they do. So it's a workforce and retention bill for firefighters that work for the Commonwealth. So I move the passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready for? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 405, Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, Fee Disclosure Statement.
Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a very simple bill. It simply states that a landlord must require on the very first page of the written rental agreement that all of the fees and the rent that would be charged to the tenant in addition to the periodic rent. I've heard from a number of my constituents who found after they had moved into their apartments a number of new fees that they were not expecting. Some of them were living on paycheck to paycheck. This is a transparency bill, and I move the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 23, no 17.
Ayes 23, no 17. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 422, Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, Prohibited Provisions in Rental Agreement, Prohibited Fees.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass. And speaking to that motion.
Senator may continue.
Senate Bill 422 protects renters from having to pay the most commonly charged so-called junk fees, by which would make it unlawful to charge a tenant to repair the landlord's appliances or equipment, and unenforceable to charge extra fees for just paying their rent when their monthly rent. And with that, I move the bill pass.
Question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, no 17.
Ayes 22, no 17. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 424, Admission to Bail, Act of Violence.
Chair recognizes Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, this is a bill that got some conversation in courts, but I think it was at the end of a long day, and so I'm going to go through it with a little more detail than I might otherwise. Madam Chairman, 2 years ago, Madam President, 2 years ago, my seatmate had legislation in a different code section, 19.2.121, which is close in time, dealing with bail. And in that, the title of that section is Fixing Terms of Bail, and it deals with some of the notices that magistrates have to give to prosecutors when cases go forward. Madam President, the language that was worked out at that time included that information could be transmitted by facsimile or other electronic devices. And that happened in 2022. What has happened since that time is that the code section that this bill deals with is before that. It's 19.2.120, and it's dealing with admission to bail. So as magistrates go down through the process, they look at this section first, and that's where they take most of their direction. Madam President, the situation that came to me specifically from my Commonwealth's attorney was one where a parent was charged with an offense of harming his child, that there was a determination that they were released on bond. There were new offenses, and when those new offenses came back, the magistrate did not have all the information about the prior offenses. And if it was not for just the luck of another individual notifying the Commonwealth's attorney and they got that additional information to the magistrate, the individual would have been released back into the same house where the child was. So, Madam President, the bill before you only deals with notice of violent felony offenses. And, Madam President, just because the members might not be familiar with them, first and second degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, mob-related felonies, kidnapping or felony abduction, malicious felony assault or malicious bodily wounding, robbery, criminal sexual offense like rape, objects, sexual penetration, and arson. And Madam President, in those situations, the magistrate, when they're releasing an individual on bail, will either simultaneously or before submit that information to the Commonwealth's attorney of that jurisdiction. I'll tell the body, Madam President, that where I live, there are some jurisdictions that are attached. The magistrate's offices are attached to the courthouses or the jails. And then there's some jurisdictions where those magistrates are literally over an hour and a half away from where those individuals would ultimately go to court. So, Madam President, this gives the Commonwealth's attorney the ability to have notice, doesn't stop the bail, doesn't change the release time, but get notice when an individual charged with a violent felony is released on bail. With that, Madam President, I hope the body will pass the measure.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 10.
Ayes 29, noes 10. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 428. Elections allows for any local or constitutional office to be conducted by ranked choice voting.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Enrico, Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, members of the body, I have lots of opinions about ranked choice voting, but this is not that bill. So you just saw a bill from the senior senator from Loudoun County that extends ranked choice voting to the presidential elections. This one is more of a cleanup bill, and it's a cleanup bill in two ways. First is a couple years ago we passed the local option that allowed localities to do ranked choice voting, which is on the books right now. But when it was drafted, the way it was drafted meant that because of the constitutional officers not being in there, every locality couldn't participate. So the language cleans that up. More importantly, the second reason it's a cleanup bill is after the November election, there was ranked choice voting election up in Northern Virginia. And after that election, the Department of Elections put out a report about how that had gone and where they thought that they needed some more robust legal authority. And so I took that report, took their concerns, put it into this bill so that we would be on sounder legal footing, because regardless of whether or not we like ranked choice voting, we have ranked choice voting, and I think we should govern well. And so just a couple examples of the things that are in the bill that go with that elect report is making sure that there's legal authority to open the final tabulation to the public, and how to report preliminary election results, because that is different than with a regular election, how to agree upon a suitable facility to securely store these election materials. It grants the Board of Elections the ability to create rules and forms to regulate and document the chain of custody, provide standards and oversight for vote counting software, and more. So I would hope we would move on this bill. I think this is in many ways a clarifying bill and a good governance bill, and thank you, Madam President.
Question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Virginia Beach.
Madam President, having voted on the prevailing side in which we just passed Senate Bill 424, request we reconsider that vote.
The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 424 was passed be reconsidered. Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The vote is reconsidered. Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, having been previously explained how we were tightening up the language that my seatmate did 2 years ago, I move that the body pass the bill again.
Question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 9.
Ayes 31, noes 9. Bill passes.
Senate Bill 491, firearm industry members create standards of responsible conduct, civil liability.
Chair recognizes the senator from East Fairfax County, Senator Carol Foy. Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move Senate Bill 491 pass and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 491 creates standards of responsible conduct for the firearm industry and requires such members to establish and implement reasonable controls for the manufacture, sale, distribution, use, and marketing of firearms. And I hope it is the pleasure of the body to pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. For what purpose does the senator from Rockingham rise?
I rise to ask if the patron would yield for a question.
Will the senator from Eastern Prince William rise and yield for a question?
I will yield.
Senator yields. Senator Obenshain has the floor.
Madam President, I would ask the patron whether this bill is in conflict with the Federal Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act.
Senator Carol Foy has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I will tell the senator that is my position that it is not in conflict. There are several states who are implementing private rights of action against gun manufacturers for not taking reasonable and safe measures in order to mitigate the hurt and harm that a lot of these weapons are causing in our Commonwealth and in our country.
Madam President, speaking briefly to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, members of the Senate, the Federal Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act was passed in 2005 that protects firearms manufacturers from civil litigation except in certain instances in which they can be proved to have known manufacturers and dealers in which they can be proved to have known or had reason to believe that that specific transaction was in violation of the law. Now, this bill is directly in contravention of that. Moreover, the Virginia courts have carefully described circumstances in which a law-abiding person or entity can be held liable for the criminal acts of another. It is typically held not foreseeable that somebody is going to commit a criminal act as a consequence of some transaction that I have with them. And absent some special relationship, it is not something that is permissible to sue a business or an individual for criminal act committed by a third party on your property. And this is, and I would say that the Supreme Court has defined very clearly the circumstances in which that should happen. This goes way, way farther than that. And for those who believe that people ought to be able to buy any firearm for personal protection, for protection against somebody who is the subject of a family domestic violence protection order, for the protection of your home, this bill will undermine the rights of law-abiding Virginians to be able to purchase or possess firearms for those reasons. Moreover, this would go so far as to subject to liability anybody who engages in any part of the transaction, including the store clerk at a big box store who sells a box of .22 ammunition, or any ammunition that winds up unbeknownst to them, wholly unbeknownst to them, being used in a crime. I would respectfully submit that this is not the policy direction that we should be going in Virginia. It is not a bill that is intended to prevent crime. It is a bill that is intended to prevent gun purchases or gun ownership. And as a consequence, I would hope that members would vote no.
Chair recognizes the senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. There are other states that have already taken this initiative and passed them in their legislatures, including New York, Delaware, and California, creating new causes of action, authorizing any person harmed by a firearm industry member's violation of the law to file suit and seek compensation or other fair remedies in court. In 2022, California enacted 2 other laws expressly authorizing lawsuits against firearm industry's defendants in certain cases. In 2023, California enacted legislation allowing for lawsuits for conduct related to 3D printers and other milling machines. The act authorized lawsuits against anyone distributing these things. Additionally, there are constitutional challenges to the piece of law that my colleague from Rockingham County just mentioned. There are plaintiffs around the country who have brought lawsuit cases arguing that the federal PLCAA gun industry immunity law is unconstitutional. To date, most are in process. Pennsylvania Appeals Court panel ruled against, in August of 2022, that the PLCAA was an unconstitutional violation of the 10th Amendment, which states that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. I thank you for your time.
Chair recognizes Senator Stewart, the senator from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I'm not sure how the bills were written in New York and California and elsewhere, but I actually think that this bill goes a little farther than even the senator from Rockingham said. And because the word distributor is not defined in the early part of the bill, but yet as you get down to line 81, any person who's injured has a cause of action. I actually think this extends to an individual, anybody that lives in one of your districts that likes to hunt, and they give somebody some buckshot to deer hunt, and that person misuses it. I actually think you have a cause of action that runs right back up the line to anyone who initially gave that away and passed it down. And that's because distributor is not defined. And so while we talk about the firearm industry, I think this bill is much broader. In fact, I don't think it could be much broader. It gets at anybody who may potentially distribute, and I don't know what distribute means because it's not defined, but typically it means to give somebody something. So that gives me a great deal of pause on this bill, and I hope others will look at that.
Chair recognizes the senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Yeah, at any time, I guess everybody's ears went up over here any time we hear someone trying to tie the Commonwealth of Virginia to California and New York, we get concerned. There's a reason why California's population is declining. People are fleeing that state, and I hate to see Virginia tied to what is going on in California.
Chair recognizes Senator McGuire, the senator from Goochland.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
So I agree with the comments of my friend from Lynchburg, King George, and my other friend from Rockingham. This is bad timing, and this bill is unconstitutional. For the military veterans in this caucus and law enforcement, we're protectors. This is the worst time in our history for all these gun laws. The enemy is not at the gate. The enemy is in the gate. And they had a national sheriff's meeting in Washington, D.C. last week, and the director of the FBI said we have more red flags in the United States today than we had before 9/11. There are military-age men coming from countries that do not like us from all over the world with these open border policies. And if you don't like guns, if you're afraid of guns, I respect you. And if you saved my life on the battlefield, I don't care if you're pink or blue, tall or short, Democrat or Republican, we're all Americans. But if the government should do anything, it should be keep the people safe. So the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun, and God forbid it's a terrorist, is a good guy with a gun. So again, I've said it over and over and over, we shall not infringe. We should protect our Second Amendment rights. Please vote no.
Chair recognizes Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Just so we're clear, nobody has a constitutional right to put a dangerous product in commerce, right? I mean, the Constitution, by the way, also doesn't, the Second Amendment also doesn't apply to gun manufacturers. It doesn't apply to gun license, the companies, the federally licensed gun dealers. Constitutional rights apply to human beings. And unless we're talking about people that are sitting in their house with an iron forge, manufacturing these things or putting together bullets, with bat guano or something, I'm not really clear how the Second Amendment has anything to do with this civil liability. This country has constantly reined in dangerous products using, guess what, litigation. We did it with the car manufacturers who used to kill tens of thousands of Americans because they put dangerous products in the market. We just did it with opiates. They're feeding these opiates out and getting people addicted to these things. We're still dealing with that today. And all this bill does is attempts to do the same thing when it comes to guns. Firearms manufacturers are making billions of dollars every year. Gun sales are through the roof across America. These companies make profits while Americans shoot each other. It's complete insanity. And one of the things we found in this country is that when we create monetary consequences for people putting dangerous products in the world, guess what? It changes market behavior. Companies start to think twice about the kinds of weapons they put out there. This solution is actually a time-tested and proven solution in America for solving these kinds of problems. And I applaud the senator from Eastern Prince William County for trying to do something about it, because this is something that will actually help to solve the problem. And it doesn't involve the Constitution.
Chair recognizes the senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Madam President. Speak to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of Virginia, I present to you another gun control bill. Yet another one. And this time, we're going after, first it's the 18-year-olds, now it's the manufacturers, because we're going to try to blame everybody except the criminal. But this year we're seeing something funny. When we want to blame the criminal, when the criminal peddles that poison fentanyl that kills somebody, oh no, they had a bad life. We need to look into their bad life. Let's not give them mandatory minimums. That's bad. But I tell you, manufacturer, they made a gun that someone misused in hurting another. They get sued. So go right beyond and past the criminal misuse or the unlawful misuse by the human being and allow for the instigation of litigation, civil litigation, to sue those manufacturers means, as a trial lawyer now, I'm open for business. For I'm going to sue Ginsu. For every time somebody knifes somebody, I'm going to sue Mother Earth for the rock when Cain killed Abel. I mean, where does it end? Where does human responsibility begin, Madam President? It's not the instrument, it's the person with the instrument. I mean, where is the human self-accountability gone? Where you're responsible for your own actions. Darn you, fork, you made me fat. ladies and gentlemen, we've crossed the Rubicon here. We've jumped the shark. We've done something. This is not proper to sue somebody or something that makes something when somebody misuses it against another. It's vicarious liability in the law, and it's not allowed except under special circumstances. And this isn't one I urge you to vote no on another gun bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair again recognizes Senator Boysko. The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion? Do you want to speak? I'm sorry, the senator wished to re-up her bill. Chair recognizes again Senator Carol Foy.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to be very clear that, yes, this is another gun bill. And as long as you have 13-year-olds killing each other because they have easy access to guns, as long as you have 6-year-olds being murdered in seconds from weapons that are meant for battlefields and not for backyards, then yes, you're going to have another gun bill, because I am committed, along with a number of people in this body, to actually do something. And one of the best things we can do is hold the actual gun industry accountable. There is only one industry in this country that is not held criminally or civilly responsible or liable for the hurt and harm that they cause, and that is the gun industry. We regulate everything from tires to tobacco to teddy bears, but we do not for guns. And that is the issue. And so when I tell you that in the Commonwealth of Virginia, deaths by guns have increased by 42%, when I tell you there's something that can be done because Smith & Wesson themselves in 2000 have said, you know what, there are things we can do to mitigate the hurt and harm that we have caused. We can have fingerprint recognition for our guns. We can have a code of conduct for gun dealers to avoid gun trafficking and gun thefts. We can actually no longer produce guns that have more than 10 bullets as ammunition. But they did not implement those common sense gun safety implications because they don't have to. They know they cannot be sued. Real change doesn't happen unless people can be held accountable for their actions. The car manufacturers did not put seatbelts in their vehicles until they were sued because the industry practice demands that there is a better way. And since then, car deaths have decreased by over 50%. So that's what this is about. The gun manufacturers are in the best position to address the gun violence that's happening. And with great power comes great responsibility. And the gun industry must play a part in reducing gun violence. Gun manufacturers have been marketing weapons of war to children. They've made DIY kits to make ghost guns and refuse to implement practical life-saving safety measures such as mass-producing fingerprint recognition. And until they are brought to bear, this bill is necessary because I believe that no one is above the law. No one. And if you believe that too, then you will vote for this bill. I ask that it be passed.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 494, live-in domestic workers, overtime pay for certain employees.
Chair recognizes the senator from Petersburg, Senator Aird.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill's passage. Speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, this, I hope, is a simple bill. It's simply about domestic workers and giving them the fundamental labor rights and access to overtime pay. Right now, domestic workers are excluded from that option, and so I'm just hoping we can, as workers, give them that same right and move this legislation forward.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 13.
Ayes 27, noes 13. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 506, higher educational institutions, public duties and powers of governing board.
Chair recognizes Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 506 does three things. Clarifies an AG opinion. It puts faculty reps on a board of visitors, non-voting reps, and it also clarifies what happens with. It clarifies where board of visitors' duties lie. So, first of all, currently over the last 3 or 4 decades, our system's developed, which has basically caused the Attorney General to provide legal advice to our universities. That's come into conflict with the way we govern our universities lately. Now that we have the Level 2, Level 3 agreements, and we expect our universities to operate independently as independent bodies, having them served by one attorney doesn't really make a lot of sense. If we were in a system like the University of California or a unified system like in New York, it might be a different story. But we have independent schools. It creates unnecessary conflict between the board and their counsel in some situations because the Attorney General's office doesn't always agree with sort of the legal advice that the university ought to follow. That's the first thing it does, and it basically makes it so each university can hire their own counsel and allows smaller ones to opt out. The second thing the bill does is it allows universities to have a non-voting faculty representative on every board of visitors. That's we already have that for students, but we don't have it for faculty. And then the last thing, there's been some confusion about where visitors to our people who are on the board of visitors are supposed to look for their duty. The Attorney General put out an opinion that said their duty first lies to the Commonwealth, second to the school. That, again, is inconsistent with a non-unified system like we have in Virginia. This says their first duty is to the school, their second duty is to the university. This reverses that Attorney General's opinion and makes it, I think, clear, consistent with how we run our schools. And I would hope that the body would pass the bill. I think it's an overdue reform as our system has evolved over the last, 2, 3, 4 decades now. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Jordan, the senator from Isle of Wight. The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 514, fines and costs, changes period of limitations for collection.
Chair recognizes the senator from Norfolk, Senator Williams-Graves.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 514 pass. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 514 reduces the statute of limitations time frame from 60 years, where it currently is, to 10 years with the statute, with the start date at the date of release. This bill, it is important to highlight that Virginia is a national outlier in this issue. The statute of limitations that applies to court costs and fees, for example, is 10 years in West Virginia. It's 10 years in Washington State, 10 years in Arkansas, 10 years in Tennessee, and 10 years in Texas, Oregon, and North Dakota. The statute of limitation starts upon the date of release. I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 515, weapons, possession of transportation or transportation into facility that provides mental health services.
Chair again recognizes the senator from Norfolk, Senator Williams-Graves.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 515 pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 515 makes it a Class 1 misdemeanor for any person to possess in or transport into any facility that provides mental health services or developmental services in the Commonwealth, including a hospital or an emergency department or other facility rendering emergency medical care. Any firearm or other weapon designed or intended to propel a missile or projectile of any kind, knife, knife except pocket knife having a folding metal blade of less than 3 inches or other dangerous weapon, including explosives and stun weapons. The bill provides certain exceptions. Additionally, the statute requires that hospitals must post a notice of the prohibition of such items at the public entrance. The bill provides that any such firearm, knife, explosive, or weapon is subject to seizure by a law enforcement officer and forfeiture of the Commonwealth. This bill protects hospital staff, this bill protects patients, and this bill protects communities. I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 550, liquid nicotine and nicotine vapor products, certification and directory penalties.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
In recent years, there's been an explosion of unauthorized vape products. What this bill does is follows the example of 4 other states and create a registry of products that have been approved by the FDA. 4 other states have passed this. In some of those states, you've got several thousand authorized products. But the whole idea here is to reduce use among young people. I ask that the bill be passed.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 556, historic rehabilitation, increases tax credit from $5 million to $10 million.
Chair recognizes Senator Williams-Graves, the senator from Norfolk.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 556 pass. Speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill would increase the maximum amount of historic rehabilitation tax credit that a taxpayer may claim per taxable year from $5 million to $10 million for expenses incurred for the rehabilitation of a certified historic structure in a locality that has a designated enterprise zone. The taxpayer would be permitted to claim up to an additional $10 million. According to the Department of Housing and Community Development, there are approximately 65 localities that have an enterprise zone, and projects located in these localities would be eligible for the additional $10 million per year in historic rehabilitation tax credit. Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 586, public elementary and secondary schools, student discipline, restorative disciplinary practices.
Chair recognizes Senator Pekarsky, the senator from Western Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam President. I move passage of the bill and speaking to that.
The senator may continue.
Thank you. SB 586 is a bill that prohibits schools from disciplining students with suspension, expulsion, or other exclusionary punishment without first considering using at least one evidence-based restorative practice. These restorative disciplinary practices are consistent with the practices set out in the Virginia Department of Education's 2021 Model Guidance for Positive Preventative Code of Student Conduct Policy and Alternatives to Suspension. The use of expulsionary discipline without considering alternative practices results in the disproportionate removal of students of color and students with disabilities from school, moving them into the juvenile criminal justice system. In 2021, the Virginia Department of Education reported that only 5% of out-of-school suspensions are given for serious or dangerous disciplinary incidents, such as possession of a weapon or drugs. 95% are given for disruptive behavior or willful defiance or simply classified as other. The use of exclusionary discipline harms all students by increasing involvement in the criminal justice system, lowering academic achievement, increasing chronic absenteeism, increasing dropout rates, safety risks, and delinquency. Additionally, exclusionary punishments have not been shown to be successful in reducing future misbehavior. What this bill, however, does not do is allow for restorative practices to be used or considered in situations where students pose an imminent threat to themselves or others. This includes cases of assault, bringing weapons to school, drugs, etc., and other inherently dangerous offenses that are defined in different sections of the code. I hope it is the will of the body to pass this.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 588, Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, Affordable Housing, Criminal Record Screening Model Policy.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass and speaking to that measure.
The senator may continue.
Yes, Madam President, this bill requires the Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development to develop a criminal record screening model policy for admitting or denying an applicant for affordable housing covered under the Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act in accordance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's guidelines.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 597, Affordable Housing Local Ordinance Authority Comprehensive Plan.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. What this bill does is takes existing code in Virginia that affords localities of Charlottesville, cities of Alexandria, and Fairfax in the county of Albemarle and Loudoun to provide an ordinance to create a framework to begin to build out affordable housing within the Commonwealth. This is noted in our JLARC report several years ago that states that there's no part of our Commonwealth that is exempt. We need workforce housing. That's the bottom line. And so, as you're probably familiar, each of these workforce, an affordable housing ordinance essentially help to leverage both your density of a site to incentivize a developer to come in and make sure there's some set-asides for our working families that need to close the gap for housing. That's what this bill does. So it's already in our code, but instead of just having a limited few number of localities have it, it allows all of our localities to go through that process to adopt an ordinance. And Madam President, as the body is aware, when you go through an adoption of an ordinance, there's a public hearing process. It vets through. You have public hearing and testimony. You go through the process to make sure that that ordinance fits your locality. This is not a cookie cutter, one size fits all, because I don't think that would work. What this bill does is allow that authority to each locality to make their own right decisions to meet the demands that are from Southwest Virginia, from Lee County to Virginia Beach to Arlington and Alexandria. It provides the exact same authority to go through that local debate, discussion, and figure out what that right fit. And it passed last year on a bipartisan basis, and I hope it does again this year. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote?
I didn't have it.
Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 606, Voter Registration, List Maintenance, Data Sharing.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Enrico, Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I'd like to move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, members of the body, I think the governor made a mistake. We all make mistakes. The beauty of constitutional democracy is that when one branch of government makes a mistake, the other branches can fix it. We got a couple bills this year going through that fix judicial branch mistakes. And that mistake, Madam President, members of the body, was taking us out of ERIC. ERIC, which was co-founded long ago by Governor McDonnell, and half states run by Republicans, half states run by Democrats, was meant to do two things. One, it was to clean up voting rolls more effectively. And it was also meant to encourage voter registration by sending out voter registration forms to folks who had moved across state boundaries. ERIC is the best tool we have for cleaning up the voter rolls. We know that because in 2022, in their annual list maintenance report, the Department of Elections said, quote, "The data quality from the ERIC program is significantly better than other interstate exchange programs in any program that elect could operate in-house with existing resources," unquote. That is because we have 24 states in ERIC, and you can still form supplemental deals with other states that aren't in ERIC. And so I think we should correct an error. I think the governor made a mistake, and I would move that we pass this bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 642, firearms, purchase, etc., following an assault and battery against person in dating relationship.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Loudoun, Senator Perry.
Thank you, Madam President. I move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Senate Bill 642 is a bill that is meant to close what is commonly referred to as the boyfriend loophole. This bill does two things. This bill moves intimate partner relationships down to the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court out of the General District Court, the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court being the court that typically deals with intimate partner violence. This bill also takes firearms away from those who have been convicted in a court of law by proof beyond a reasonable doubt who committed assault and battery against their intimate partner. I've listened as my colleagues across the aisle say that firearm bills this year repeatedly take away firearms from otherwise law-abiding citizens. I would submit to them that this bill does the opposite. This bill takes away firearms away from those who have committed and been found guilty of committing assault and battery against a person that they are supposed to love and take care of. While there are protections in place currently to ensure that an abuser who is convicted of assault and battery against a spouse or family member loses their firearm, this protection does not extend to other intimate unmarried partners. This is a major gap in the law that has failed to keep pace with the reality of modern intimate relationships. Marriage rates have steadily declined over the past 3 decades, but unmarried partners do not have the same protections from their abusers under current Virginia law. The data shows exactly why this is a problem. Half of all domestic violence-related homicides nationwide are committed by a dating partner rather than a spouse. In Virginia, the most recently reported data shows that intimate partner homicide makes up nearly a third of all fatal homicide events in Virginia. In 2018, the Virginia Office of the Chief Medical Examiner reported that intimate partner homicide represented 32% of all homicides in Virginia. Research shows that when states broaden their firearm laws to cover abusive dating partners, the states experience a 16% reduction in intimate partner gun homicides. Most intimate partner homicides in Virginia are committed with the use of a firearm. In 2018, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner reported that most victims of intimate partner homicide were women, 74.5%. And they were killed using a firearm. That's 65.5% of them. A trend that has remained consistent since the inception of Virginia's Family and Intimate Partner Homicide Surveillance Project in 1999. So I'd ask that the members of this body vote to close the boyfriend loophole and join the other 41 states and the federal government who have seen fit to do so.
Chair recognizes the senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of the body, I could support this if it was drafted properly. And I supported over the years she sat by the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Howe, for so many years, who broadened this category because I thought it was the right thing to do. The problem with this is an intimate partner is defined as somebody in a romantic dating relationship. And that's a very subjective standard, because what I may think is romantic, someone else may not. And that's why we have, since before I came to this body, but certainly since I've been here, we've used the definable standard of a family member. We know what a family or household member is. And so if I go out with somebody and I think it's just friendly, that other person may think it's dating. And I don't know how you fix that. And in fact, I think it's fixable, and I think that's why we've never gone to this standard before. And I just ask you all to pause and think about that. It is a subjective standard. It is not definable. I could support the senator if it were drafted in such a way that it was a definable standard, but this bill does not get there.
Chair again recognizes Senator Perry.
Madam President, just speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Madam President, I take the comments that were made. I will say 16.1228, which defines family member for many, many years, included the phrase and cohabiting partners, people who have cohabitated in the past 12 months. What does cohabitating mean? It's not defined in the code. It was defined in case law. We have many words in our code that are defined in case law. What do you do to the point? What do you do if there are conflicting stories? Yes, it was a romantic relationship. No, it wasn't. What do you do about that? Well, I was a prosecutor for many years, and that exact situation would arise occasionally. And it's an element of the offense that I would have to prove, that anyone would have to prove. Were they cohabitating partners? Were they married? Do they have a child in common? These are common questions that happen in these types of cases. The way that you ferret it out is the way that you ferret out evidence in any other case. You sit down, you talk to the people who are involved, you talk to the law enforcement officers who went out to the scene, and you find out where they were, were they not. If you can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, guess what? The case goes next door to General District Court. It's just a regular assault and battery. What if you're mid-trial and it happens? What happens then? Same thing, case gets transferred down. I would submit it's not a reason to not protect the people who are getting killed and murdered in rates that I just went over by intimate partner homicide. And ask the body pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 643, failure to appear, penalties.
Chair recognizes Senator Aird, the senator from Petersburg.
Madam President, I move that bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 643 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 645, local fiscal distress, determination by auditor of public accounts, state intervention.
Chair again recognizes Senator Aird.
Madam President, I move passage of the bill. Speaking to that amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Madam President and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 645 is structured to set up a framework by which we as a Commonwealth have the ability to help localities that find themselves in fiscal distress. And Madam President, if we were to take a look at the list of communities that are currently represented in fiscal distress, this bill would likely not apply to those. This is specifically for localities that find themselves in their worst financial state, oftentimes on the brink of, if you will, what's known as sort of bankruptcy, although as a Commonwealth, we don't allow for our localities to do so. Much of this language codifies the existing structure that is in budget language regarding helping localities in fiscal distress, but we simply add the appointment of an emergency fiscal distress manager when those methods no longer are working and or are an option, and we need to, if you will, stop the bleeding financially. And so on Friday, we narrowed this legislation regarding the powers of the emergency fiscal distress manager to only apply to a treasurer's office and not all constitutional offices. And so I'm hoping that with that change and with what we're trying to do here to give us the necessary tools to help our localities that find themselves in financial trouble, we can move the legislation forward.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 6.
Ayes 34, no 6. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 654, fines, costs, forfeitures, etc., collection fees, assessment against incarcerated defendant.
Chair recognizes Senator Williams Graves, senator from Norfolk.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 654 pass, and I would like to speak to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 654, the engrossed version of the bill, extends the criteria for delinquent payments of fines, costs, forfeitures, and penalties from 90 days to 180 days. The bill provides that if for any defendant sentenced to an active term of incarceration or order to pay any fine, cost, forfeiture, or penalty related to the charge that such defendant is incarcerated for or any other charge that such defendant is convicted of, the court shall enter such defendant into a deferred payment agreement for such fines, costs, forfeitures, or penalty. The due date for such deferred payment agreement shall be set no earlier than the defendant's scheduled release from incarceration on the charge for which such defendant received the longest period of active incarceration. The simple part of this bill, Madam President, is that we are not sending folks to collections for court costs and fines and forfeitures and penalties while they are still incarcerated. Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 672, Property Owners Association Act or Virginia Condominium Act, assessment for legal obligations.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Senate Bill 672 amends the Virginia Condominium Act and Virginia Property Association Act, Owners Association Act to confirm association authority to collect and use fees for services provided by the association, whether those services are provided to a lot or to a common area. The legislation is necessary to restore some order after confusion resulting from recent Virginia Court of Appeals decision, Burkholder versus Palisades Park Owners Association, that misreads longstanding provisions of these statutes and calls into question association authority to pay for services provided by the association unless the fees are explicitly authorized in the recorded documents or statute and fund common areas only. Associations are routinely required and expected to provide services, some that only benefit lots like trash removal, cable and internet service, property maintenance, or utilities. Associations also fund and provide community building events that can serve the entire community like a holiday event. Like any other business, associations also have operational and administrative expenses, such as filings with local and state government agencies, insurance coverage, and professional services such as accounting and tax preparation, management, engineering, and legal services. Under a broad interpretation of this case, without confirming this authority in statute, an association may not collect or use fees paid by homeowners for those services. Associations have financial resources to fund expenses. They must have those resources, whether the expenses are the result of mandates or to meet resident expectations. We received reports and testimony at the General Laws Committee hearing on the bill that owners are using the case to argue they're not required to pay for services. These challenges are expensive and divisive to communities. SB 672 is essential to provide certainty and predictability to Virginia citizens who live in communities served by associations. Again, I renew my motion the bill pass.
Chair recognizes Senator Stewart, the senator from King George.
Madam Chair, would the gentleman yield for a question?
Will Senator Eben rise and yield for a question?
I yield.
Senator Eben yields. Senator Stewart has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I apologize. I'm not in that committee, so I didn't hear this bill. But I would ask the gentleman, as I understand it, the court said you can only collect these fees if they were within the restrictive covenants or for a common area. Is that correct?
Senator Eben has the floor.
Yes, that's my understanding.
And so, Madam President, a second question.
Second question, Senator Eben, will you yield?
I yield.
The senator yields. Senator Stewart has the floor.
And so clearly any of those fees that were set out, when you say the recorded documents, those are fees that the individuals were aware of when they purchased the property and knew what they would have to pay up front. Is that correct?
Senator Eben has the floor.
Yes, and I'll give examples of some that might not have been explicitly laid out in the documents. For example, maintaining sidewalks on individual townhome lots have been challenged because of this decision, or irrigation on lots, which can include entire communities in the case of one association in my district. So it's both ones that are explicitly laid out, but some that are not explicit, but people would understand to be maintained and reasonable expectations of owners would allow to be maintained.
Gentleman, you have for another question.
Will the gentleman from Alexandria yield for another question?
Yes, I'll yield.
Senator Eben yields. Senator Stewart has the floor.
So the court said they have to pay the fees that were set out in the documents when they bought the place, and this would extend it to fees that they were not aware of that they would have to pay. If that is my rudimentary understanding of what this bill does. Is that correct?
Senator Eben has the floor.
I would dispute the notion that they're not aware of. I would just say common sense fees, like whether it's throwing a Christmas party or paying legal bills or maintaining sidewalks that don't benefit the entire association but are rather on one lot.
Would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will Senator Eben yield for another question?
I will yield for an additional question.
The senator yields. Senator from King George has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that was a mostly yes, but I'm not sure. So finally, Madam President, I would ask the senator, I know his seatmate has done a lot of work regarding HOA's ability to take people's property away for not paying their fees. And I would ask the senator if they then refused to pay fees that they never knew they were going to have to pay to start with, could their property then be sold at auction to pay those fees that they never knew they were going to have to pay to start with?
Senator Eben.
This bill is to give the associations the right to spend the money that's collected for the good of the association in ways that people would expect. This is not about fines. It's about the expenditure of fees, not about fines.
Would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will Senator Eben yield for another question?
I will yield for one final question.
Senator Stewart has the floor.
And I apologize, Madam President. I'm just trying to understand. I thought the bill was about the authority to collect fees from people who were not set out in the documents up front or to take care of common areas. And if I understand the law that we've adopted in this body, and the gentleman from Fairfax who sits next to the senator has done a lot of work in this area, is it not true that if the people refuse to pay these fees that they didn't know they were going to have to pay, they could be found delinquent and their property could be foreclosed upon?
Senator Eben has the floor.
This doesn't change that process, but I'm going to have to read him lines 18 to 21 because I think it's important the body understand what we're talking about. It says, nothing in this chapter shall be construed to prevent an association from levying or using assessments, charges, or fees to pay the association's contractual or other legal obligations in the exercise of the association's duties of responsibilities and responsibilities. For example, in Alexandria, the Potomac Yard Association, which is made up of multiple buildings and multiple properties, some of the buildings have a contractual obligation to provide irrigation service. This allows them to meet their contractual obligation, or to maintain the sidewalks that might not benefit the entire association, but are rather on the premises of one of the properties. This is not a nefarious way to get homeowners associations to collect damages, but rather just allowing them to expend their fees if they have a contractual obligation for legal services, and maybe that's not in the governing document, but people expect in the normal course of business that a homeowners association might have to have an attorney retained for something.
I thank the senator, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 6.
Ayes 34, no 6. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 696, marijuana-related offenses, modification of sentence.
Chair recognizes Senator Williams Graves, the senator from Norfolk.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 696 pass, and I would like to speak to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill creates a process by which persons convicted of certain felony marijuana-related offenses involving the possession, manufacture, selling, giving, distribution, transportation, or delivery of marijuana committed prior to July 1st, 2021, who remain incarcerated or are on community supervision on July 1, 2024, must receive an automatic hearing to consider modification of such person's sentence. This bill sets January 1, 2025 as the deadline by which such hearings must be scheduled. The bill also creates a process by which persons convicted of any felony offense involving possession, manufacture, selling, giving, distribution, transportation, or delivery of marijuana committed prior to July 1, 2021, and on the date of such conviction was also convicted of any other offense other than the act of violence as defined in Code Section 19.2-297.1, who remain incarcerated or on community supervision on July 1, 2024, must receive an automatic hearing to consider modification of such person's sentence. The bill sets April 1, 2025 as the deadline by which such hearings must be scheduled. I move passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 697, solar and energy facilities, local regulation.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Enrico, Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of the body, Senate Bill 697 is about solar siting. And what it's trying to do is thread the needle between three things: property rights, local government control, and our energy goals as a Commonwealth. And if you've heard about this bill, what you've probably heard it said is it's a ban on bans. And what this bill seeks to do is say that localities just have to create a process by which they handle projects on an individual basis. I would point you to two things in the bill. First is lines 86 to 88, which say there is nothing in this bill that says localities have to approve projects. They can vote no on any project that they want. The second thing I would point out is it says that once you get to 4%, you could have a ban on more solar projects. You don't have to get to 4%. You can stay at where you are because you can disprove any project you like. That 4% didn't come out of nowhere. It's a couple counties are at around 3%, and so that's where we came up with a number. But having said that, I move passage of the bill.
Chair recognizes Senator Rome, the senator from Western Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, first, the bill gave me a lot of heartburn, and the patron worked with me directly on two amendments that include tree canopy cover and stormwater management having to be areas that localities can consider in terms of if they're going to actually approve these things in the first place. And because the senator was willing to work in good faith on this and take care of a very important issue that deals not just with solar panels, but deals with the data center industry, for example, where we are dealing with clear cutting the woods, where we're dealing with significant repercussions of stormwater management, is really important to have these sort of guidelines be explicit instead of just implicit. This bill, the amended version of it, makes it explicit, and so that's why I'm voting for it today. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Stanley, the senator from Franklin County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speak to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Well, I said this in committee, but I think it's worth repeating because now we have all of us together here in the chamber. But I'm reminded when I look at a bill like this as why we in Southside Virginia and Southwest Virginia are sometimes mistrusting of our government. Because quite frankly, every time the government mandates or tells us what to do down there, we lose. North American Free Trade Agreement. We need cheap sneakers and furniture. Guess what? All of our jobs went overseas. NAFTA, CAFTA, the giant sucking sound you do recall, as it was coined a phrase to be. Quite frankly, tobacco is bad. We can't grow it anymore. Pay a little bit to keep your farms bare. Government told us that. Guess what? We end up on the losing side of that. We used to be in Southside and Southwest Virginia, the top of the food chain in the Commonwealth. We led the Industrial Revolution. We had the highest per capita income in our area, highest per capita graduation rates, best schools, best hospitals, greatest population. And after NAFTA and CAFTA, and tobacco's bad, and now coal's bad, our population's depleted, our unemployment rates went up. And quite frankly, it's because the government tells us it's good for us. And I know that people that live in Southside and Southwest Virginia are tired of getting patted on the head and told what to do. Because every time we listen, we lose. And these solar bills, which then now say, you Southside Virginia, which has taken a lot of the solar acreage up, you must have these solar farms. We're going to lose. We forget that those fields, those family farms, where we grow the meat and the vegetables that everybody eats, it's not in the back of Kroger where they grow it. It's in our fields. You take those fields up, they're not going to have crops for feeding our citizens. Well, you know, in the committee, they even said, when it came to tree removal, talk about how many acres of forest you have to remove to put these solar panels in. When you put the solar panels in, those trees aren't coming back. Our forestry industry in Southside and Southwest Virginia make sure that when they clear, they're replanting. They're almost totally 100% recycle in using the land properly. But you put these things in, those trees will not come back. You tell us what to do and keep telling us what to do, and it keeps messing us up. Please let us try to determine for ourselves what is best for ourselves and our children and our future. And we will not try to tell you, the rest of Virginia will not try to tell you in Northern Virginia and other areas how to run y'all's life. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 710, judges, maximum number in each judicial district and circuit.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill,
The senator has the floor.
this is the bill that we discussed at length the other day. It creates new judicial positions throughout Virginia.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 719, restorative housing and isolated confinement, restrictions on use.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Enrico, Senator Bagby.
Thank you, Madam President. I move passage of the bill. Speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the senior senator from Fairfax spoke on this bill just yesterday and put a floor amendment on it in which he described the bill and the floor amendment in great detail, but reminding the members of the body the purpose of this bill is to place guardrails and disclosures on the use of prolonged solitary confinement in Virginia's prisons and require pro-social programming that will help rehabilitate those incarcerated individuals. And I move passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 736, clerk's offices, days of operation of clerk's authority to close office.
Chair recognizes the senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the last bill on the regular calendar third reading pass and speak to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, this bill is important for your circuit court clerks. It will not change the course of direction of the Commonwealth of Virginia, but it will allow those independently elected circuit court clerks to close their clerks' offices on Christmas Eve and other days that courts are closed. So, Madam President, I would respectfully request the body pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on second reading.
Chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Saraville.
Madam President, I move that we take a recess for 15 minutes. We need to chat about a couple things and check out the ice cream cooler on the way back to the room over here. So if we could just recess for 15 minutes, we would appreciate that.
With the ice cream in mind, Senator, no objections. Senator. Yes. Ice cream.
Madam President, upon recess, if the Democratic caucus could meet in the back room, please.
Exactly. The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 28 through 40, Senate Bill 142 through Senate Bill 676, be advanced to their engrossment in third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on the uncontested calendar on pages 28 through 40, Senate bills 142 through 676, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the adoption of the amendments thereto, and after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will now read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 142, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment, and there is a floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Mulcahy, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Madam President, I move that be pulled from the block.
Without objection, Senate Bill 142 is out of the block.
Senate Bill 34, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke. Again, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the amendments from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 39, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that we agree to the substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 40, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with an amendment, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that it be rejected, I move the agreement with the amendment from Rehabilitation and Social Services.
The question, with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the committee amendment from Rehab and Social Services be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The committee amendment is rejected. Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the substitute be adopted. That's the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 54, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that it be agreed to, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
With the recommendation that the substitute,
we've got two subs.
Which substitute?
Be rejected.
Senator
Ed
Locke.
and Health.
With
the recommendation that it be agreed to, I move that it be rejected.
The question is, shall the substitute from, with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the substitute from Education and Health be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
Substitute from Education and Health is rejected. Senator Locke.
Now I move that the substitute from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 94, reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Stanley, the senator from Franklin County.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 104, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 105, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair again recognizes Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 118, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the substitute from the Committee on Commerce and Labor be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 186, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Subramaniam.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute from the Committee on Education and Health with a recommendation that we reject that substitute.
The question is, with a recommendation that it be rejected, shall the substitute from the Committee on Education and Health be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Substitute is rejected. Senator Subramaniam.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that I move the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with the recommendation that we accept that substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute from Finance and Appropriations now be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 272, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we agree to the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 311, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator Boysko, the senator from Northern Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 339, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator Salim, the senator from Central Fairfax.
Madam President, I ask that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 381, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
I move the committee substitute be approved.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 450, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Senate Bill 461, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator Marsden, the senior senator from Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that it be rejected, I would move the substitute from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the substitute from Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The substitute is rejected. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 488, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Aird, the senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that it be rejected, I move the Committee on Education and Health substitute.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the substitute from Education and Health be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is rejected. Senator Aird.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 543, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator Bagby, the senior senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 563, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the senator from Tazewell, Senator Hackworth.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that it be rejected, I move the substitute from Education and Health.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the substitute from Education and Health be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is rejected. Senator Tazewell, Senator Hackworth. Senator Hackworth from Tazewell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute from Finance and Appropriations.
Question is, shall the substitute from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 582, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute, and there is a floor amendment.
Senator Perry, the junior senator from Loudoun. Your button is pushed? Okay. I don't know. I understand. Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Now I move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment.
I don't have a floor amendment, sir. Is there one?
It was distributed.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment, the Eben floor amendment, be waived? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the amendment is waived. Senator Eben.
I move the floor amendment be adopted. And speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
What this does is it leaves in the code current language that allows buyers of tobacco or nicotine products who are 18 to 21 but members of the armed forces to be able to purchase. And this just reverts to the state of current law. The larger bill has to do with penalties for those who would sell to underage, and this would just remove them from that sales penalty.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 590, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendments, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriation with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, with the recommendation that they be rejected, I move the amendments from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the committee amendments from Rehab and Social Services with amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
Yeah, I got it. The committee amendments are rejected. Senator Deeds.
Madam President, I move that the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute from Finance and Appropriations now be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 594, reported from the Committee on Rules with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator McPike, the senior senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the amendments be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 608, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Ayer, the senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is accepted.
Senate Bill 676, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced to their third reading? That is, all bills except for Senate Bill 142 on page 28. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading. Senator Surville.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate bills now on third reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 28 through 40, Senate Bills 142 to 676, that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third reading of the titles of the bills be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The bills are now before the Senate on their final passage. Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate bills now on third reading uncontested calendar on pages 28 through 40, Senate Bills 142 to 676, be placed in their final passage in the block. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block shall do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 28 through 40, Senate Bills 34 through Senate Bills 676, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 34, Senate Bill 39, Senate Bill 40, Senate Bill 54, Senate Bill 94, Senate Bill 104, Senate Bill 105, Senate Bill 118, Senate Bill 186, Senate Bill 272, Senate Bill 311, Senate Bill 339, Senate Bill 381, Senate Bill 450, Senate Bill 461, Senate Bill 488, Senate Bill 543, Senate Bill 563, Senate Bill 582, Senate Bill 590, Senate Bill 594, Senate Bill 608, Senate Bill 676.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar. Sorry, returning to 142 on page 28.
Senator Mulcahy, senator from Mecklenburg.
Madam President, with the recommendation that it be rejected, I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
And speaking to the... Speaking to that?
And speaking to that, no?
You don't have to. There's the floor. Okay. With a recommendation that the Education and Health Committee amendments be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
No. No.
No. Okay. And those have it. The committee amendments are rejected. Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. And we have a floor amendment, and I move that the reading of the floor substitute be waived.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor substitute, the reading thereof is waived. Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the floor substitute be agreed to, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the efforts of the patron of the bills, Senator from Mecklenburg, as well as a variety of stakeholders. We did spend the weekend working with stakeholders and other interested individuals to make sure that we are able to address some of the concerns that were raised on Friday regarding SB 142. We are very close to an agreement, and all of the stakeholders have asked that we move this bill forward with the recommendation that we continue to work on this bill as it goes through the House. Just briefly, some of the changes that are now in the substitute reduce the percentage of teachers that could qualify for local eligibility, changes the number from 10% to 5%. It also expedites the process for teachers hired under local eligibility to move to a provisional license and to be able to qualify for the full credentialing. And it expands the number of the work group, including other individuals, other representatives and stakeholders on that work group that is part of this bill. Again, we have worked with many stakeholders, and there is agreement. While there's not peace in the valley, we're very close to it, and it is the request that we move this bill forward. So I move that the substitute for SB 142 be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Mokai, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Madam President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Question is, shall the bill now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 427, a bill relating to petition for modification of a sentence eligibility procedures. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, and there is a floor substitute.
Madam Chair, I'd ask that that bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 427 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 701, a bill relating to vested rights building permits. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with an amendment, and there is a floor amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator French, the senator from Shenandoah.
Madam President, can this go by temporarily? We're a little bit confused on something about it.
Without objection, Senate Bill 701 goes by temporarily.
Senate Bill 1, minimum wage increases wage to $13.50 per hour effective January 1st, 2025. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 44, owner of firearm, use of firearm by minor in an unlawful manner or to cause bodily injury. Reported for the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute and for the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Enrico, Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, with the recommendation that the Courts of Justice substitute be rejected, I move that the Courts of Justice substitute be agreed to.
With the recommendation that the Courts of Justice substitute be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. No. The substitute is rejected. Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Committees on Finance and Appropriations substitute be accepted.
Question is, shall the substitute now be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is accepted. Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 212, Virginia Small Business Economic Development Act established. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that the substitute from Commerce and Labor be rejected, I move that the amendment or the substitute be agreed to.
With the recommendation that the substitute from Commerce and Labor be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The substitute is rejected. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move with the recommendation that the substitute from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we engross and advance it to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 231, Children Comprehensive Health Care Coverage Program. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health with an amendment and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator.
Amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Ashby, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we agree to the amendment from the Committee on Education and Health.
Question is, shall the committee amendment from Education and Health be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment from the Committee on Education and Health is agreed to. Senator Hash.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that we adopt the amendment from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Question
is, shall that committee amendment be adopted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is adopted. Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that SB 231 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall Senate Bill 231 now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Thank you, Senator Rouse. Bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 253. Shared Solar Programs amends existing program provisions to apply to Dominion Energy, Virginia. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Saraville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Saraville.
Move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 255, Shared Solar Programs, SCC to establish by regulation, etc. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Chair again recognizes Senator Surville.
I move the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Surville.
I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 256, Motor Vehicle Insurance, Bad Faith for Refusal of Claims. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Again, Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
And again, I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Surville.
I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 274, Prescription Drug Affordability Board established Drug Cost Affordability Review Report. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that the substitute from the Committee on Commerce and Labor be adopted.
Question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted. Senator Deeds.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 300, Voter Registration, List Maintenance Activities, Required Identification Information. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 329, Compost and Other Products Containing Organic Soil Amendments Infrastructure Civil Penalty. Reported for the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Surville.
I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 364, Elections, Protection of Election Officials Penalty. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Eben. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 448, Cannabis Control establishes a framework for creation of a retail marijuana market penalties. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute and from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Good little bill. Chair recognizes Senator Rouse, the junior senator from Virginia Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services that the substitute be rejected, I move the amendment or the substitute be agreed to. Rejected.
With the recommendation that the substitute from rehab and social services be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
That substitute is rejected. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that the substitute from the courts of justice be rejected, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
With a recommendation that the substitute from the Committee or Courts of Justice be rejected, the question is, shall it be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
That substitute is rejected. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the substitute from Finance and Appropriation be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute now from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 454, Electric Utilities Recovery of Development Cost Associated with Small Modular Reactor. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill now be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 504, Police and Court Records Expungement, term otherwise dismissed. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with an amendment.
Senator Sorovell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute from the Committee on the Courts of Justice.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I move the amendment by the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator Sorovell.
Move the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 508, Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, Geothermal Heating and Cooling Systems. Reported for the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes again Senator Sorovell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that it be rejected, I move the substitute from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the substitute from Committee on Commerce and Labor be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The substitute is rejected. Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The question is, shall the substitute from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is accepted. Senator Sorovell.
I move the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 565, Energy Efficiency Programs, Incremental Annual Savings. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that the substitute from the Committee on Commerce and Labor be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Deeds.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 603, Incarcerated Women Who Are Pregnant, etc., DCJS et al. To make recommendations for treatment. Reported from the Committee on Rules.
Chair recognizes Senator McGuire, the senator from Goochland.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we engross and advance the bill to the third and final constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 634, State Corporation Commission Powers and Duties. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. And there are two floor amendments.
Two.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the reading of the amendments be waived.
The question is, shall the reading of the
Floor amendment.
Floor amendments be waived? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the amendments are waived. Senator Rouse.
Madam President, I move that the amendment, floor amendment be agreed to, and speaking to that.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. What this floor amendment basically does, is basically hones in on and streamlines this piece of legislation to the oversight of just utilities, and that was asked before the committee if we can make this piece of legislation more targeted and more specific, and that's what the floor amendment does.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we engross and advance this bill to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 737, Energy Efficiency Programs clarifies definition. Reported for the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Sorovell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Sorovell.
Move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Returning to page 41, Senate Bill 701.
Chair recognizes Senator French, senator from Shenandoah.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that the amendment be rejected, I move that the amendment be agreed to.
Committee amendment.
The committee amendment.
Oh, Madam President, I move that the reading be...
Okay. We got... With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is rejected. Senator French.
Madam President, I move that the reading be waived for the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the French floor amendment now be waived? Those in favor will say aye. What? The chair is confused.
I confer.
Shall the reading of the French floor amendment be waived? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the amendment is waived. This is not your first bill, Senator.
I agree, Madam President.
Senator French has the floor.
Madam President, I move that the amendment be agreed and to speak to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the help of many members of this room, including the senior senator from Prince William, for pointing out my original bill had some unintended consequences that may make my original bill have some situations that could be deemed unsafe. So with that brought to my attention, we're going to add and the Uniform State Building Code. We're going to insert that on line 15 after permit.
Question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator French.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to the third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced, I think, to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate joint resolutions on second reading.
Chair recognizes Senator Hackworth. For what purpose does Senator
Surville.
Okay. Chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Somerville.
Mademoiselle President, I move that all the Senate joint resolutions on the second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 52 to 53, Senate joint resolution 15 through 25 be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto. That any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. And I can only do it in Spanish, not French.
The question is, shall all Senate joint resolutions on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 52 and 53, Senate joint resolutions 15 through 25, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring a bill to be removed, an amendment resolution to be removed from the block, will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution 15, Large Animal Veterinarians Board of Veterinary Medicine to study. Reported from the Committee on Rules with an amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Hackworth, the senator from Tazewell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee amendments.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator Hackworth. Oh, we're in the block. We're in the block.
Senate Joint Resolution 19, reported from the Committee on Rules with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Rome, the senator from Western Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the committee amendment and speech to the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, these were requested by VDOT, so these are basically just making sure that they're going to be able to comply with the request that we actually made from the Senate.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 25, reported from the Committee on Rules.
Chair recognizes Senator Stewart. Oh, yes, I see. Yes, I see. I see where I am. The book is a mess. All right. The question is, shall the Senate joint resolutions be engrossed and advanced to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The joint resolutions are engrossed and advanced to their third reading. Senator Somerville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate joint resolutions now on their third reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 52 through 53, SJR 15 to SJR 25, that the rules be suspended and the third reading of the titles be waived.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third reading of the titles of the joint resolutions be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is waived. The joint resolutions are now before the Senate on final passage. Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate joint resolutions now on third reading, uncontested calendar on pages 52 to 53, SJR 15 through 25, be placed on their final passage in a block. Any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block shall do so after the clerk has stated the number of the resolution.
The question is, shall the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 52 and 53, Senate joint resolutions 15 through 25, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill to be removed, a resolution to be removed from the block, will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will now read the number of the resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution 15, Senate Joint Resolution 19, Senate Joint Resolution 25.
The question is, shall the resolutions in the block be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions in the block are agreed to.
Resolution on second reading, Senate Joint Resolution 22, Virginia State Police retired, taxation to study reducing economic stress. Reported from the Committee on Rules.
Chair recognizes Senator Carol Foy, the senator from Eastern Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that the bill be engrossed in advance to its constitutional reading.
The question is, shall Senate Joint Resolution 22 be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Joint Resolution 47, Investor-Owned Electric Utilities, SCC, to study performance-based regulatory tools. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Sorovell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
I'm going to have a busy day tomorrow. Madam President, I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Sorovell.
Move the resolution be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the resolution be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Moving to the supplemental calendar, the blue calendar. For Monday, February the 12th, 2024. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Chair recognizes Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate bills on their first reading on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 1 through 13, Senate bills 176 to 729, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles of the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendar of the supplemental calendar number 1, pages 1 through 13, Senate bills 176 through 729 be dispensed with? All in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I move that all of the bills now on second reading go by for the day.
Question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendar, supplemental calendar number 1, now on second reading, go by for the day? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Inquiry of the clerk. Is it time for the Courts of Justice Committee to meet? And are we done with the calendar?
Thus endeth all the calendars for today.
Excellent.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? For what purpose does the senator from Roanoke rise?
Madam Chair, for a brief point of personal privilege.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, hopefully later this week I'll have a memorial resolution that I'll be asking everyone to sign on for our friend, the Honorable Ansley Ware of Roanoke, who passed away over this weekend. When we do the resolution, I hope to properly eulogize him, but just something I want to say today, as everyone was sharing their stories about the passing of Ansley Ware, almost all of us were sharing the exact same story. The senator from Botetourt, when he became a delegate in the Roanoke Valley that represented part of Roanoke City, the former delegate from Salem, Greg Habib, myself, Delegate Rasul, who is Judge Ware's successor in the House of Delegates, we all had the exact same story, which was about the first time when it was clear that we were likely going to represent our area in the General Assembly, how he pulled us aside and just gave us very honest, very helpful advice to make sure that the Roanoke Valley was in the best place we could be in. And I look forward to when we're able to share more about him later in the coming weeks. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes the senator from Stafford, Senator Durant.
Madam President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator may continue.
It's with a heavy heart I announce the tragic loss of a fellow Virginian. Madam President, VMI graduate and Marine Corps Captain Jack Casey, whose class of 2019 was tragically killed along with 4 of his fellow Marines in a helicopter training event this last week. Madam President, in times of sorrows, we find solace and strength in the words of Psalm 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirits. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family, friends, and fellow Marines affected by this devastating incident. May the comforting embrace of faith guide through this difficult time, and may the memory of our fallen Marines be a source of inspiration and courage for us all. We honor their sacrifices and extend our deepest condolences to those mourning the loss of these valiant and dedicated service members. Madam President, I ask we adjourn in honor today of Captain Jack Casey, U.S. Marine Corps.
The clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Monday, February 12th, the Committee for Courts of Justice will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room A. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Economic Development and Natural Resources will not meet. The Northern Virginia Caucus will not meet. The Committee on Commerce and Labor will not meet. Tomorrow, Tuesday, February 13th, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on General Government Work Group will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the Senate Finance and Appropriations Room, 13th floor. Senators Surville, Marsden, Eben, McPike, and Pillion. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will not meet. The Republican Caucus will meet at 9:15 a.m. Senate Room 2 in the Capitol. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 9:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1 in the Capitol. 2 more shopping days.
Chair calls on the senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 10 a.m. tomorrow, and in memory of VMI Cadet Captain Jack Casey, United States Marine Corps. Thank you.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. tomorrow in memory of VMI graduate Captain Jack Casey, United States Marine Corps? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.
This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.